Hello everyone. I just did a recording to talk about Cold War clues and then talk about the future of Warzone. I wanted to do an additional recording to go more in depth with the whole thing about what I said with scrapping Warzone and then using some assets from it. Okay, let's go and start with the attachments. I've just pulled up some random numbers. These are not official tests, so don't take these as is, official or otherwise. But anyways, in this test, they took out an M4 and an AK-47 to see what their noise levels are with and without a suppressor. The M4 is 159 to 164 without the suppressor. With a suppressor, it's 127 to 130. The AK-47 is 155 to 165 without a suppressor. With suppressor, it's 130 to 146. The M4 with 300 Blackout using Subsonic was 118 to 122. So what we can see from this is that while the suppressor does have an effect on the gun, the ammunition used also has an effect. The 300 Blackout was capable of a much lower decibel range than an M4 using 5.56. So with that, I think we can use that as a base model, say this is where suppressors should be in Warzone. As it stands, I think that they reduce the noise way too much. I think it's just way too strong. I think it could be nerfed a little bit to give attachments, to give other attachments more room to be good. So with that, I want to look at flash hiders, because flash hiders, just like suppressors over the years, have evolved. Some flash hiders are now combined with compensators and muzzle brakes. But let's look at these test conditions. An AR-15 was used for this, not an M4, but an AR-15. Shooting conditions were 0.25 lux. Bare muzzle is 10,760 lux. Blackout with flash hider, low grade, 0.35 lux. 5.56 with high grade flash hider was 0.31 lux. So as you can see, the blackout has more of an effect than sound suppression. Even a low grade flash hider still achieves very low lux levels. 300 blackouts just really good at reducing not only the noise but also the flash. So what can we do with this? Well, for suppressors, I would say that you could make like a low grade or a high grade suppressor, and then the high grade suppressor is only locked with higher levels. Or you could just remove the suppressors and the two of the three suppressors entirely, and then just make people wait for suppressor at later levels, and then they can just rely on flash hiders. As for flash hiders, I think you can add flash hiders that are combined with the muzzle brake and compensator, and then leave the normal compensator and muzzle brake in. The flash hiders that are combined will have less recoil control than the straight up compensator and muzzle brake. That's how I think it should be handled. However, I doubt that the devs will ever listen, but that's where I would start to put things. With that mentioned, let's just go ahead and talk about the subsonic rounds to kind of, I guess, educate on the subject and show some areas where, that you could do some attachments with that. So earlier I said subsonic round when using 300 Blackout. 300 Blackout has both subsonic and non-subsonic rounds, so you actually can change the behaviors of it by changing the type of 300 Blackout you're using. In that regard, I think you can make an attachment for non-subsonic 300 Blackout, which would increase its damage range or something, as an example. But I think that the 300 Blackout should be less damage than the 9x39. 9x39 is the Russians' subsonic, and this one does an incredible job of getting through body armor. It does a much better job than 300 Blackout when it comes to armor. For that reason, I think that 9x39 should be doing more damage than the 300 Blackout if this were to be added. You can see that here with the SP6 round. At 100 meters, It can penetrate 8 millimeters of steel while retaining enough power to inflict damage to a soft target behind it. That's how strong the 9x39 is. 300 Blackout can't even get close to that level of performance. So, as far as both of these rounds are concerned, they are something that civilians can buy. You could buy 9x39 or 300 Blackout. So, even though that these rounds aren't really common in the military, I would say it's feasible to put it in just because of the level of access to them. While attachments, guns, and other things, I want to quickly go over this article. We're going to focus on this part right here. In order to maintain a capability advantage for Australia's defense forces, the soldier weapon systems of the future will integrate both traditional manufacturing and digital technologies, including 3D printing, advanced optical and targeting equipment. This refers to Thales and Lithgard arms. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because Lithgo arms, does have a weapon that does look like an AUG, and I think this could be put into the game because of how futuristic it is. It's using 3D printing technology as well as other things. I don't know if this is in mass production yet, but you can see that this article was 2019, so if it's not in mass production, it's probably going to be pretty soon. I think you could put that in the game because it could be like an alternative to the AUG or something, but yeah, so, and while we're at it, I want to go and use this particular gun to show you the difference between a bullpup and a normal AR-15 style platform, because I said that bullpups tend to be shorter. And look at this, the longest F90 is 802 millimeters in overall length. If you look at the M4, it's 838 millimeters with its stock extended. So this is an entire 36 millimeters shorter than an M4, despite having a longer barrel. Because you'll notice its barrel is 20 inches, whereas the M4 is 14.5 inches. So that goes to show you how compact a bullpup is. It's pretty crazy what you can do with it. But yeah, I think you could put this into the game. Depending on how long this will take, you might be able to put in the next generation weapons that the U.S. military is looking into. These are some examples right here. There's some right here. There's one right there, and then here's this. Sort of on the suppressor subject, I think that if something like this is added to the game, it could have its own unique suppressor, because this looks like a Coke can, as people have jokingly said. Whether or not this Coke can of a suppressor will do better than the current suppressors is yet to be seen, but just maybe it will do better because it's using even newer technologies. But now that we've kind of talked about guns and stuff, let's go and talk about the maps themselves. People have been saying that they would like to see a night version of Verdansk. I have no problem with that. If people want a night version of Verdansk, so be it. But with Cold War coming out, I have an idea that I want to share with you. As far as I can tell with Cold War, it's going to be during the Vietnam period. I know this because of Ronald Reagan being in there. Ronald Reagan came in towards the final years of the Vietnam conflict. So if Cold War is indeed going to be Vietnam, then I say let's do a classic Verdansk, or at least a map specific to Vietnam. In that particular Battle Royale mode, you would have no radar, no UAVs, and your gun or attachment options would be limited because, let's be realistic, back in the Vietnam period, even the U.S. military only really used M14s, M16s, or pistols. That was about really all you saw in the normal infantry. If it was a more specialized unit like a sniper, then that changed. But yeah, I think we could do something that's like a classic or a Vietnam version of Verdansk. I think that would be a really cool thing to do, because then you can make it kind of like the hardcore version of Battle Royale, in that you just don't have any radar or UAVs to work with. But yeah, that's really all I have to say on this topic. Thanks for listening.